You know, some stories, they just don't end cleanly. They leave behind questions, these lingering echoes that disturb the peace long after a case is supposed to be closed. Today, we're going to look into one of those stories. It's a really chilling account of murder, of justice, and a very unsettling mystery that came after. Our story starts right here, Sialkot, Pakistan, back in 2009. Now, Sialkot is a city known for its industry, for its hardworking people. But that year, a really dark undercurrent of fear began to spread through its streets, and it was brought to the surface by a series of truly horrifying discoveries. And this was a fear you could almost feel in the air, especially among the women. A quiet terror was taking hold of the entire community as whispers in the markets slowly turned into very worried conversations back at home. At first, it was just talk, whispers of missing girls, of widows who hadn't been seen. But then those whispers turned into real dread as police stations started getting reports, not of missing people, but of bodies being discovered. It got to the point where women were actually afraid to even leave their homes. A horrifying pattern started to emerge. The victims, you see, were always the most vulnerable members of society. Women who were alone, struggling, just looking for a way to support their families. Their bodies would just be found discarded. And the cause of death? It was brutally consistent. A blunt force attack to the face, almost as if it was meant to rob them of their very identity. What made this killer so terrifying wasn't just brute force or some random act of violence. No, he used something far more insidious. He literally preyed on hope itself. In public, he built up this image of complete trustworthiness. He came across as a devout, kind man, someone you'd feel totally safe talking to. And this disguise? This was his most dangerous weapon. It's what allowed him to get close to women who were already in such desperate situations. This really breaks down his cold, calculated process. First, he'd identify a target. Then, he'd make a false promise, maybe a job, or financial aid from a charity fund. After that, he lured them to a rented house, pretending it was for an interview. And once they were inside, isolated and totally vulnerable, he would attack. For months, this reign of terror just continued. But the entire investigation was about to break wide open. And it was all thanks to one brave woman and a small advertisement she found in a newspaper. And this was the ad. Simple, direct, and to someone in need, it must have felt like a ray of hope. A job, an opportunity to work from home. It probably seemed like the perfect solution. But if you look closer, the warning signs were all there. Just a mobile number, no company name, no address, nothing to verify if it was even legitimate. And these are exactly the kinds of details that are so easy to overlook when you're desperate for a lifeline. A widow named Asma Begum saw this ad and she made the call. She was invited to a house for an interview. She went, and just like all the others, she was brutally attacked. But here's the thing. Unlike the others, she survived because she resisted with everything she had. Her courage was just incredible. Injured and bleeding, she somehow managed to open the door and run screaming into the street. Her escape actually created this chaotic opportunity for other women who were also being held captive in that house to flee. Her testimony, and the testimony of the other survivors, finally gave the police the first solid evidence they needed. With this powerful eyewitness account, the net finally started to close. The city of Sialkot was on the verge of seeing the end of this absolute nightmare. The man behind all these crimes was Mohammed Yusuf Mughal. He was arrested on September 30th, 2010. And when he was presented to the media, he showed no sign of regret, no remorse at all, even as he was being accused of murdering more than a dozen women. When they asked him for a motive, this was his claim. He said he was a cancer patient, and he needed the money for his treatment. A desperate justification for just unimaginable cruelty. So the legal process moved forward. After his arrest in September of 2010, the trial concluded the following June. On June 16, 2011, the judge delivered the sentence that the entire city was waiting to hear: death. The killer was caught. He was punished. You can just imagine the collective sigh of relief that swept through Sialkot. The case was finally closed. But like we said at the beginning, some stories, they just don't end. They leave behind a question, an echo that simply refuses to fade away. Was the story really over? Because sometime later, another piece of news surfaced in Sialkot. and it put the entire city right back on edge.
And this right here, this is the heart of the whole mystery. Another killer emerged, and the parallels were just chillingly precise. His name was also Yusuf. He operated in the same city. He used the exact same method of luring and murdering vulnerable women. The only difference was his fate. While the first was sentenced in court, the second Yusuf was killed in a police encounter.
Well, this sparked immense confusion. People started asking all sorts of questions. Was it possible this was the same man? Had the original Yusuf Mughal somehow escaped? Or maybe he was released on bail while his death sentence was under appeal? Or, and this is maybe the most disturbing possibility, was this just a chilling coincidence, a completely different person who adopted the same name and the same horrific method?
Now, the legal system in Pakistan does have a mechanism that allows for the possibility of bail for an inmate who is appealing a death sentence, especially if there are other weaker cases pending against them. So that offers a potential, if unsettling, explanation. But the truth is, no official body, not the police, not the courts, ever issued a definitive public statement to confirm or deny any of these theories. And that just left the city to wonder in silence.
And that leaves us with this final, unsettling thought. One killer was sentenced, another one was killed. But because the narrative is fractured, with two faces for what seems like one crime, the story never truly found its ending. So you have to ask, does the fear ever really go away? If stories like this matter to you, like the video and subscribe.